What if I told you that the way you reheat your food could matter just as much as what you eat? Not because your microwave is toxic, and not because leftovers are dangerous, but because how food is stored and reheated can sometimes lead to bacterial toxins, loss of nutrients, and in certain situations, real health risks. Before you worry, this is not about fear. This is about understanding what actually happens based on real science, not viral claims. You may have seen videos saying that reheating food causes cancer or damages your body. The truth is, most of those claims are exaggerated or misunderstood. However, that doesn't mean reheating is always harmless. There are specific foods where improper storage, repeated reheating, or poor handling can create problems. In this video, we are going to look at 5 commonly reheated foods and understand what actually happens to them, what the real risks are, and how you can handle them safely. Let's start with rice. Rice is eaten all over the world and is generally very safe, but it is also one of the most common foods linked to food poisoning when handled incorrectly. The reason is a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. This bacterium can exist in rice in the form of spores. These spores can survive even after the rice is cooked. Now here's where the problem begins. If cooked rice is left at room temperature for too long, those spores can grow into bacteria. As they grow, they produce toxins. These toxins are heat resistant, which means even if you reheat the rice later, the toxins may still remain. This can lead to symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea, and stomach discomfort. These cases are reported regularly and are well documented in food safety research. So the issue is not reheating rice itself. The real problem is leaving cooked rice out for too long before storing it. The safe way to handle rice is simple. After cooking, let it cool quickly and place it in the refrigerator within 1 to 2 hours. Store it in a closed container. When reheating, make sure it is heated thoroughly until it is steaming hot, and avoid reheating it more than once. Next is chicken. Chicken is a major source of protein and a regular part of many diets. But like rice, the concern here is mostly about bacteria, not the act of reheating itself. Raw chicken can contain bacteria such as Salmonella and Campylobacter. Proper cooking kills these bacteria. However, if cooked chicken is left out at room temperature or not stored properly, bacteria can grow again. Another issue comes from how chicken is reheated. If it is reheated unevenly, especially in a microwave, some parts may remain cooler than others. These cooler areas can allow bacteria to survive. There is also a common claim that reheating chicken makes the protein toxic. In reality, when protein is reheated, its structure does change, but this is a normal part of cooking and not a major health concern in everyday situations. To handle chicken safely, store it in the refrigerator within 2 hours of cooking. When reheating, make sure it reaches a safe internal temperature and is heated evenly. Avoid reheating it multiple times. Now let's talk about eggs. Eggs are another food that is often misunderstood when it comes to reheating. There is a popular belief that reheating eggs creates harmful compounds that can damage your health. However, there is no strong real-world evidence showing that reheating eggs in normal conditions makes them dangerous. What actually happens is much simpler. When eggs are cooked and then reheated, the proteins change structure again, which can affect texture and taste. This is why reheated eggs can become rubbery or dry. The real concern with eggs, just like chicken, is bacterial contamination. Eggs can sometimes carry salmonella. If egg dishes are left out too long or not stored properly, bacteria can grow. The safe approach is to refrigerate cooked eggs promptly and consume them within a short time. When reheating, make sure they are heated thoroughly and avoid leaving them at room temperature for extended periods. At this point, you may notice a pattern. The main risk with reheating food is not the reheating itself, but how the food is handled before and after. Now we move to leafy greens like spinach. Spinach is widely known as a healthy food, rich in nutrients and beneficial compounds. One of the natural components found in spinach is nitrates. On their own, nitrates are not harmful and can even support healthy blood flow. The concern people often mention is that nitrates can convert into nitrites, and under certain conditions, these can form compounds called nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are associated with health risks, but it is important to understand where and how they form. This process is mainly significant in processed foods and under specific industrial or high heat conditions. In normal home cooking and reheating, the formation of harmful levels of these compounds is not something that typically occurs. That said, it is still a good practice to avoid repeatedly reheating leafy greens or storing them for too long after cooking. Eating them fresh or freshly prepared is always the better option. So again, the takeaway is not that spinach is dangerous, but that proper handling and storage matter. So far, we've covered rice, chicken, eggs, and spinach. And the most important thing to understand is this. The real risk is usually not from reheating itself, but from bacteria and improper storage. In the next part, we'll look at the final food on the list, clear up one of the most common myths about reheating, and go over simple rules you can follow to keep your food safe without unnecessary fear. Now let's move to the final food on the list, and this is one that has been surrounded by confusion for years. Mushrooms. You may have heard that reheating mushrooms is dangerous or even toxic. This idea has been circulating for a long time, but when we look at actual scientific evidence, the situation is very different. Mushrooms are rich in proteins, vitamins, and antioxidants. When you cook them, their structure changes just like any other food. If you store cooked mushrooms properly in the refrigerator and reheat them thoroughly, they are generally safe to eat. So where did the concern come from? Some older recommendations suggested that mushrooms should not be reheated because their proteins might break down and cause digestive discomfort. But this is not the same as being harmful or toxic. It is more about texture and, in some cases, mild sensitivity in certain individuals. The real issue again comes down to storage. Mushrooms have high water content, which makes them more prone to spoilage if left at room temperature for too long. If they are not stored correctly, bacteria can grow, just like with any other cooked food. So the safe approach is simple. After cooking mushrooms, allow them to cool and refrigerate them within 1 to 2 hours. Store them in a sealed container. When reheating, make sure they are heated evenly and consumed immediately. Avoid reheating them multiple times. At this point, we've covered all 5 foods, and you've probably noticed a clear pattern. The biggest risks are not mysterious chemical reactions happening every time you reheat food. The real risks are basic but important. Leaving food out too long, improper refrigeration, reheating food unevenly, and reheating the same food multiple times. Now let's clear up some of the most common myths that often spread online. One major myth is that reheating food in a microwave makes it harmful or radioactive. This is not true. Microwaves heat food by causing water molecules to vibrate, which produces heat. It does not make the food toxic. Another common belief is that reheating any protein automatically creates dangerous compounds that lead to serious diseases. In reality, while cooking and reheating can cause small chemical changes, these are a normal part of food preparation and are not a major concern in everyday diets. There is also a misunderstanding about leftovers in general. Many people think that eating leftovers is unhealthy. In fact, leftovers are perfectly safe and practical if handled correctly. In many households, they are an essential part of daily life. What truly matters is how you manage your food from the moment it is cooked. So here are simple, practical rules you can follow to keep your food safe. First, do not leave cooked food at room temperature for more than 2 hours. In hot environments, this time should be even shorter. Second, store food in the refrigerator in clean, sealed containers. This helps slow down bacterial growth. Third, when reheating food, make sure it is heated thoroughly. It should be hot all the way through, not just on the surface. Fourth, avoid reheating the same food multiple times. Each cycle increases the chance of bacterial growth and reduces food quality. Fifth, if food smells off, looks unusual, or has been stored for too long, it is better to discard it. These are simple habits, but they make a significant difference. It's also important to understand that your body is not fragile. The human digestive system is designed to handle a wide range of foods and natural changes that occur during cooking. The goal is not to eliminate every possible risk, but to manage the real ones effectively. So instead of worrying about whether reheating food is secretly harmful, focus on building good food handling habits. That is what actually protects your health. To sum everything up, reheating food is not the enemy. Poor storage and handling are. Rice can be risky if left out too long before refrigeration. Chicken and eggs are safe when cooked and stored properly, but can carry bacteria if mishandled. Leafy greens are nutritious and safe, with no need for fear, as long as they are not repeatedly reheated or poorly stored. Mushrooms are also safe to reheat when handled correctly, despite common myths. The key message is simple and practical. Cook your food properly, store it safely, reheat it thoroughly, and avoid unnecessary repetition. When you follow these steps, you can enjoy your meals without fear and without falling for misleading information. In the end, good health is not about avoiding everyday foods. It is about understanding them and making informed choices. That's how you stay safe, confident, and in control of what you eat every day.